It is your secret mission in life, exactly. It should be everybody's secret mission, to make the world a better place. So, this kind of segues into the Socratic that we're going to do today, because this is our first big class discussion where we have tried to synthesize everything we've done all semester into one discussion where everyone is going to have a voice and everyone is going to be able to talk. So I'm giving you the rubric. If any of you have ever had me for English class, you'll be like, oh, great, the rubric. This will look familiar to people, probably from their English classes, maybe if they haven't had me. But this is a little bit modified. But I want to go through the rubric with you because I want you to see that it's 20 points, so it's an individual grade of 20 points, but the first part, 8 points of it, it's really the biggest section, is on speaking and listening, with an emphasis on listening and speaking. So we know that everyone in this room has a different maybe type of discussion comfort level. And so these are the goals of this, that every person listens and that every person speaks. That's our goal. So we need to work together for that. So the first part is the student is engaged in the conversation throughout the activity. The student is not off task, like perhaps on their cell phone, or engaged in a side conversation. So you need to be paying attention the whole time, whether you're in the inner circle that's speaking or in the outer circle that's listening. You should always be paying attention. The next one, the student demonstrates listening by responding appropriately to questions posed by classmates. So it should show throughout the discussion that you are listening to what people are saying. Again, whether you're in the inner circle or in the outer circle, that you're paying attention and that you respond. If someone asks you a question, you're able to answer them. Another response that you could have is maybe you didn't understand their question and you need them to clarify. So if they ask a question but you're not really sure what they're asking, or even if they have said something and you're not really sure what they meant by it, that is a way to participate and to speak in the Socratic, to say, okay, Manal, you said this, but I'm not really sure what you meant. Could you clarify that? Or if Manal asked me a question, I could say, wait a minute, I'm not sure what you're asking. Do you mean this, maybe? And ask a question back to try to get more information or clarity. Another way to add, yes?
Do we get points for asking for clarity?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's all part of it. Is because it's important that every single person feels like they understand what is being discussed, and that, I mean, you're not going to be able to participate in the conversation if you don't even understand what the question is, you know? And it's hard to listen and focus if you don't understand what the people are saying. So yes, definitely, you will have the opportunity to get points for just participating in that way by asking, like, what do you mean? Also make sure that you don't do inappropriate responses. So like, sometimes I notice in Socratic, I'm sure it won't happen in this room, but sometimes I notice that people just feel like, I want to say something so I get my speaking point, and I was told I could talk 3 times and get all my points, so I'm just going to say whatever random thing I want to say just to get it out there. And they aren't connecting it at all to what's been said before them, and they're just like saying some random thing. So make sure that you are not inappropriate, that you don't ignore what's been said right before you, or that it seems like you're just trying to get something out there for a point. It should be a discussion, and that means everybody's participating and moving the conversation forward, so that it isn't like just random, well, I said this, well, I said this, well, I said this. You know, the goal is to try to connect ideas together. Also, don't make light of anyone's questions or anyone's answers. You know, we spent like an entire unit, an entire project talking about difficult conversations, and there might be things that people say that you disagree with, or there might be things that people say that, you know, for whatever reason, you know, maybe don't see the logic in it or the seriousness in it, but it's important to be respectful, not to ignore what they say or make light of what they say. And then the next part, when the student contributes to the conversation, the contribution creates an organic and natural flow of ideas and inquiries from others in the class. So again, it should be organic. It should seem like it's just moving forward so that it just flows from idea to idea, and like there are transitions in between, so that you're thinking about, how do I connect what I want to say with what has been said before? Or how do I ask a question that's going to bring the conversation beyond just, like what people wrote in their journals, but takes us forward. And then the student also demonstrates listening when taking specific and thorough notes when observing the inner circle discussions. So I don't know about you, but if I'm watching something happen and I write down notes, that helps me to pay attention, if I know. So on the back of these sheets, you are going to take notes. So you can make like little bullet point notes where you write like a little dot, and then you write something that someone says. Like Nia said, blah, blah, blah. And just kind of keep track when you're not in the discussion of what's being said. You'll turn this in with a self-score at the end so that we can see what notes you've taken when you're not in the circle. Okay, questions about speaking and listening? 8 points. Okay, the next part is your argument and analysis. So these would be the arguments that you put forth in answering the question. So these would be your opinions, basically. Your arguments are your opinions. They should be well-founded and grounded in the experiences and readings and classroom discussions. So connect whatever arguments you have or positions to what we've been studying in the class. Guest speakers, field trips, discussions, projects, anything you've learned. You should accurately analyze the speaker's purpose and message, taking into consideration the intended audience and occasion. So you should be thinking about why the guest speakers were here, what was their purpose in being here, what were we supposed to learn from them, and that's part of analyzing what you're talking about. So don't just say, well, I liked Manisha because she was a good speaker. You should be thinking about, what was her purpose in what she said? How does that purpose connect with us as the audience and the Brown versus Board of Ed field trip? So be thinking about connecting those kinds of things in your analysis. And then when you're analyzing the meaning, you should be thinking about the text that we read as well. So don't forget, we've done more than just go places and listen to speakers and have people in our room. You had to read some articles. You had to search some websites. You had to find some things on your own and listen to podcasts. All of those things are different texts that you did work with. So think about that as you're thinking about the rhetoric of the things that you read. Like what were the words that were out there by the different things that you read. Think about the websites and their structure, their bias, all of those things about what we've looked at. Any questions about argument and analysis? Okay, then evidence. This has 6 points for evidence. Evidence means specific examples from field trips, guest speakers, readings, course-related discussions, activities, and lessons. And the references that you are making are kind of the anchor. That's going to be the weight that holds it all together, the evidence that you use to support any arguments or analysis, to your specific references to what we've done, or what we've heard or read. Questions about that? Okay, next, collaboration. This is huge. So you are to work with his or her classmates, your classmates, to come to a common understanding. So you're trying to work together with everyone. It should not feel to Mrs. White and I like there are 2 or 3 people dominating and giving all the answers. It should feel like it's equal contribution from everyone, so that if you are a person who has absolute comfort with speaking, you maybe ask questions of people who are more reluctant to speak. Or you ask people to clarify things so that you draw everyone's voice into the conversation. It should not feel like it's being carried by anyone. It should feel like a collaborative effort. And then make sure that students do not interrupt. Like, don't interrupt when somebody is speaking, or to dominate just because you're like, oh, it says 6 pieces of evidence, I'm going to talk 6 times, and once I do that, then I'm good. It shouldn't feel like that. It should feel like you are collaborating and working together. And you should encourage others to share the floor. You should invite classmates who have not spoken to speak by maybe saying, Megna, you haven't said anything. Well, you don't have to say that, because that might make her embarrassed. But Megna, do you have any questions about what I just said? Or Megna, do you have anything that you could add to the Brown versus Board of Ed field trip that we went on? Something like that, to draw them in, so that you call attention to them. Do not do this. Do not say, when we were at the Brown versus Board of Education field trip, we learned about the differences between what separate but equal meant in Topeka versus what it meant in South Carolina. Manal, tell us what those differences are. Don't do that, you know, because Manal, like, you look like a deer in headlights. But it also is like, wait a minute, they just called my name and I have no idea what they were saying beforehand. So if you're gonna do that and try to bring somebody into the conversation, say, Leilani, when we went to the Brown versus Board of Education, so she's got this heads up like, oh, she's gonna ask me something, I better pay attention, okay? Okay, and then the last thing is preparation. So you're gonna turn in any notes that you brought with you. The journals that you did for today are gonna be collected at the end, but if there's anything that you want to throw in with this, and we're gonna be able to kind of judge your preparation based on the evidence that you actually use in the discussion. So, questions about this? Okay, so we're going to do some fun groupings today. We're doing 20-20-20, or 10-10-10-10-20.